This is the troubling story of the love and devotion of a brother for his sister. Her rape and subsequent murder led him on a mission to track down and kill those involved in this tragic act. The events took place in 1970 in Sri Lanka, is known as Hithumathe jeewithe, a wandering life. Several times, this courageous brother escaped from prison and avenged his sister. Beheading each one, he would surrender to the police along with his victim's head. I know, these kinds of stories often happen in movies. However, I tell you this. This is a true story and it happened here in our homeland of Sri Lanka. You will find links to the story at the end of this article. Hithumathe has told his story several times to the media, and I'm using that information in my article. I want the world to know this story. Batukahage Don Hithumathe was born in a rural village in the Kalutara district of Sri Lanka, the only son of the family. His younger sister was Kusumavati, known as Kusuma for short. Both children attending the same school, Hithumathe accompanied his beloved sister to and from school. Now it happened that at the local New Year festival, a traditional event, some village VIPs were appointed as judges of the most beautiful girl. Among the judges were the police inspector and the school principal and the district minister. A delighted Kusuma was crowned as the most beautiful. However, as a symbol of congratulations, during the crowning ceremony, the minister tried to hug her. A shy girl, Kusuma rejected the minister's gesture, preferring to worship him in the traditional way. Yet, the minister's pride had been hurt in front of the crowd of onlookers. It set in train his act of revenge, which led to Hithumathe's search for justice. Now, a few weeks passed uneventfully when Kusuma mentioned to her brother that the principal had scheduled an extra English lesson after school, so she would not be able to walk home with him. This was unusual, and though Hithumathe believed his sister, he still waited for her after school near the village temple to accompany her home. He waited patiently for a long time, but there was no sign of Kusuma. Hithumathe surmised that she must have gone home already. On reaching home himself, he was met by his mother with the alarming news that Kusuma was not there. The shocked family was very agitated. Hithumathe and his father made a hurried search of the village. Sadly, there was no sign of her. The following day, Hithumathe informed the police of the disappearance of his sister. Yet, the police took no notice of their report, dismissing it completely. The family was distraught and helpless, having no one to turn to. Already rumors were spreading through the village that Kusuma had run away with her boyfriend. The family knew that was a lie and wanted to protect the honor of their daughter. A break came 14 days later when Kusuma's best friend confided in Hithumathe, revealing the shocking truth. On that fateful afternoon, she and Kusuma had left the English lesson together. Suddenly, a police jeep pulled up beside them. Kusuma was dragged inside, her struggles in vain. The police threatened her friend with retribution if she dared to utter a single word of what had happened. For that fear, I kept it as a secret. Yet, I cannot hold it any longer, she whispered. Hithumathe was overcome with emotion, vowing to uncover the truth of what had happened to his beloved sister. Within a few days, he was able to catch the driver of the police jeep near a rubber estate. Producing a knife, Sumatipala threatened the driver. I will kill you if you don't tell me the truth. What has become of my sister? Quaking with fear, the driver confessed. For 14 consecutive days, she was raped by several men. Then 2 days ago, she was murdered. Her body was burnt in the cemetery. The driver revealed the names of the rapist, the minister who was also the chief guest at the New Year festival, the police inspector, the school principal, a local butcher, and a spy from the village. Grief-stricken, Sumatipala rushed to the cemetery where he discovered Kusuma's school bag and chain. This moment was the turning point in Sumatipala's life. This simple, uncomplicated 17-year-old became a kind of beast. He had one thing on his mind: justice for his blameless sister. He went straight to the blacksmith, buying a very sharp knife. Next up was the accommodation of the police inspector. While waiting for him to arrive, he noticed the inspector's pistol lying on the table. Acting quickly, he removed the bullets and hid behind the door. Finally, the inspector returned to his room, unaware of Sumatipala's presence. He sprang out from behind the door saying, I am the brother of Kusuma. I know you were part of the group who raped and murdered my sister. That's who I am. Prepare to atone for her murder. The police inspector grabbed his pistol, but it was too late. Springing into action, Sumatipala hacked off his neck. Shoving it into a sack, he traveled to the police station where he surrendered along with a bloodied head, stating, I killed a man who raped my sister. Sumatipala had committed the first murder of his life. He was arrested on the spot. At his trial, Sumatipala was sentenced to death. Initially, he was imprisoned in Nigambo, far from his home village. Next, he was transferred to CRP, a prison in Colombo. Then came the day before he was to face the gallows. Sumatipala had a sad visit from his mother. Hearing that her son was to hang the next day, she had a heart attack and passed away. That night, alone, Sumatipala lost his temper. I have not committed a crime, so I will not face the gallows. With those words, he grabbed the steel plate left from his last meal. He managed to break it in half, then sharpened one piece by scraping it on his cell floor. He savagely ripped open his stomach, his intestines tumbling out. The alarm was raised by a prisoner from the next cell. Sumatipala was rushed to the hospital where he underwent a 6-hour operation. Luck was on his side, and Sumatipala breathed again. Due to face the hangman in a couple of hours, the gallows demanded Sumatipala to be taken back to his cell at once. Kindly doctors steadfastly refused with these words, This man may be a prisoner to you, but he is our patient, and we have a duty of care until he has fully recovered. Cruelly, the gallows started to drag Sumatipala away. Then the doctors resisted and would not allow him to be taken. Immediately, they submitted a petition to the High Court magistrate, which was passed on to the President of Sri Lanka at that time, Sir William Gopalava. With only 3 minutes remaining, the President ordered a delay of execution. Following 2 months of medical treatment, Sumatipala was then transferred to Bukambara prison in Kandy. Now the reader might think that there had been enough excitement in the life of Sumatipala so far, but that was far from the case. A chance finding of the steel handle of a bucket triggered the next part of his saga. This is how things unfolded. Day after that, with great determination, Sumatipala began to dig into the wall of his cell using this handle. He removed any evidence of sand by stuffing into the loaf of bread which came with his meals. The mission took 3 months of secretive, painstaking work. Finally, the hole was large enough for him to squeeze through. It was time to put the next stage of his plan into action. When night fell, Sumitipala tore his bedsheet into stripes, plaiting them into a rope to aid his escape down the prison wall. By midnight, Sumitipala was free. Who would be his next target? It was the minister. He tracked him down in Kochikade, a suburb of Colombo, where he could stay with a friend. Soon he was able to uncover all he wanted to know about this minister. It transpired that he owned a guest house where he would frequently spend the night. Now Sumitipala rented the room next to that of the minister. With the minister in residence one night, Sumitipala secretly climbed onto the rooftop. From there, he was able to break into his targeted room. At that very moment, this unscrupulous minister was in the act of raping another unfortunate girl. In a desperate rage, Sumitipala decapitated his enemy. Again, placing the head in a sack, he turned himself and the sack in at the nearest police station. Bogambara prison was his home once more. Nevertheless, his case beginning to receive a lot of interest. Transferred several months later to Anuradhapura prison, he came into contact with 5 other dangerous murderers. One of these was the notorious Siripala, popularly known as Marusira, the murderer. The two, in fact, were cellmates and became firm friends, linked forever by the tattoos they linked onto each other's chest. Sumitipala gave Siripala a tattoo in Sinhala which means living with the murderer. Accordingly, Siripala gave Sumitipala a tattoo with the words Hithumathe jeewithe, which means wandering life. Brothers in arms, the two unlikely Alis led a riot in the prison, setting it on fire. I, the mayhem, each made good their escape. Siripala was eager to join Sumitipala on his next act of revenge. This time it was to kill the principal of the school, the one who had detained poor Kusuma after school for that extra lesson, all the while intending to betray her to the police in the jeep. Bravely, Sumitipala soothed his friend with these words, "This is my mission, let me finish it alone." Thus, the friends went their separate ways, with Sumitipala heading to his fateful destination in Kalatura. According to plan, he found accommodation with a former cellmate and set about finding the house where the principal resided. One night, he hid in the garden of this house, waiting for the principal to come outside to the washroom. When he did, Sumitipala silently crept up behind the unsuspecting man. Quick as a flash, he launched himself at his unsuspecting target, finally managing to hack off his head. A tank full of blood told of the ghastly deed in the washroom. True to form, Sumitipala turned himself in at the nearest police station along with a severed head in a sack. With another conviction, Sumitipala was sent to Valikada prison, Colombo, where he was happily reunited with his former cellmate, Siripala. At least he had a kindred spirit there. At once, the pair began to plot their next escape. It all came to a head when they heard that, along with 3 other inmates, they were to be transferred to another prison. Piyasena was the name of one of these. He had lost 2 fingers on his left hand as a result of a bomb blast. With this apparent handicap, Piyasena actually had a particular advantage. Though security was high on the van transfer to the next prison, Piyasena quietly slipped out of his handcuffs. He then stole the key to the handcuffs, passing it to the others to unlock themselves. Employing the element of surprise, the prisoners broke free and escaped along with the guards' rifles. Now for the final target, the butcher. Remember him? Alone again, Sumatipala found accommodation in the Katapatha area where the butcher lived. He spent some time studying in the man's daily movement to and from his house. One day, Sumatipala borrowed a bicycle and waited till the butcher returned from work. As his car approached, it was time to execution his plan. Sumatipala rode out in front of the car, blocking its way. The butcher shouted, "Who the hell are you?" He jumped out of his car. Sumatipala spoke firmly, "I am Kusuma's brother. You raped my sister." A fight ensued and Sumatipala was the victor. The final act was the same as was the trip to the police station where he surrendered with his sack. Incarcerated again, Sumatipala never attempted another escape. This devoted brother spent 40 long years in prison with the knowledge in the end he would meet his beloved sister in the afterlife. As well, he was comforted by knowing that he had won justice for her.